My guest today is Carl Seville. Carl, you are with SK Collaborative. Can you tell us a little bit about what that company does?
Sure. SK Collaborative is a green building consulting firm. We provide primarily certification for new construction and renovation, both multifamily and single family, throughout the country. We handle both affordable and market rate projects.
Is there one program that you deal with more than others?
We probably do most work with the National Green Building Standard.
Okay.
Locally, we do work with Earthcraft, and we also do LEED and Green Globes and Fitwell. Sort of pretty much any program anybody needs, we can handle.
Yeah. So I take it then you see a lot of different types of projects from the small to the large. Do you notice any sort of problems that's probably prevalent through all of those different types?
There's consistent problems with construction quality, and really following instructions is a lot of what goes on. Honestly, most of what we do is quality control. The base levels of certification are not generally not really high lifts over sort of base code.
Mhm.
One of the things I've had going on a long time is that if we just design buildings intelligently and built them really well, built them properly, we would pretty much have green buildings. The
Yeah.
challenge is that the baseline in construction tends to be pretty low. Things often don't meet manufacturer's instructions, don't meet recommended construction practices, and don't always meet the codes.
Right.
So just bringing it up to a base level would actually get things to be green buildings fairly easily.
Okay. So you used to be a builder yourself, right?
Yeah, I had a high-end remodeling firm in Atlanta for about 25 years.
Okay. And when did you made the transition to what you're doing now?
I left my firm in 2005 and I actually started doing consulting a little bit before that, but chose to leave the company and worked on setting this consulting business up, and it evolved into SK Collaborative about 5 years ago.
Okay. So your presentation today, you're looking at some ways that builders can improve their homes from a different variety of perspectives, correct?
Yeah, I sort of picked a few things. I mean, you could sort of talk about this for months, and I picked a few key areas of problems I see that are not too challenging to correct that I'd like to see builders and developers do.
Okay, so once you share your screen and we can go through those quickly and
All right, let's see.
we can have a conversation about it.
Okay, so basically, building science, which is sort of the core of green building, falls down into sort of heat, air, and moisture. So I'm going to talk about how people are not managing it and offer some solutions to manage it a little better.
Okay.
So you manage heat through insulation. There's a few other subtleties, but primarily it's it. You want to basically have no gaps, limited compression, and tight to the air barrier with your insulation. So if you look at this slide here. This is an older building, but it's common in blown-in ceilings. They just don't have the full depth of insulation. You just gotta
Right.
fill it up. Bats end up being compressed really badly and crammed in, and that doesn't meet manufacturer's instructions.
Yeah.
Um, and the picture on the right is really how it should be done. A bat should be split around all the pipes and wires. And I've had my troubles with bat insulation, but if it's installed right, it works fine. And it's a good cost. The problem is it's a real commodity, and people tend to slam it in and run, and nobody really pays attention to how it should be done. The
Right.
field superintendents tend to not really pay that close attention to it. And honestly, insulation inspections and quality is one of the main things we do.
Okay.
So in air management, it ties in, air controls moisture as well as heat, but knee walls are the biggest thing. This is like a knee wall over a garage. And the fact that this is open here means that this room is never going to be comfortable. This is the way an attic knee wall should be insulated, with air sealing on the backside, blocking between the floor joists and things of that sort. And we just see this left out of buildings all the time. Chases are really critical. So like this is behind a tub. This is maybe another built-in chase. And this one, they tried to do a good job here. They insulated it and then put this thermoply in, but they left a bunch of holes. This is actually from one of our field inspections. We kind of left all these holes there. And this one over here, there's no sealing there. So often we see chases not sealed at all, but even when they are sealed, they just miss a lot of things.
Yeah.
And holes are big air leaks. So these are some other examples. Again, these are pictures from our field inspections. You got a hole to the outside, you got a hole to the plate to the attic. And I threw this picture in here. This originally came from Building Science Corp. But humidity is a really big issue, and air leakage is where humidity comes from. And the way you see this is that a 1-inch, a sheet of drywall, excuse me, in a season will diffuse about a third of a quart of water through that drywall. You cut a 1-inch hole in that drywall, and through a season, you will get 30 quarts of water.
Wow.
So you think about it, that's why houses are often uncomfortable. They're too humid in the summer, and they're actually too dry in the winter because of air leaks.
Right.
People think that houses are dry because the gas heat's running. But it's literally, in most climates, it's dry in the winter because all the humidity that we naturally have inside a house from breathing and cooking gets sucked out to the outside where it's much drier. So moisture management is the other thing. You got to keep water out of the house. Kickout flashing is the one thing we see missing all the time. Whenever you have this detail where a roof terminates in a wall, you have to have kickout flashing. If you don't, it literally, the only place the water has to go is to run down the wall inside the wall behind the structure. And there are countless situations where this was not put in and the wall rots. There's really just no way around it. It's not a requirement in most codes, and some green building programs is not even a requirement, but it's something that every builder should be doing in all circumstances. Correct fasteners is a really important one. I pulled this picture out just because it shows staples in house wrap, and most house wrap does not allow staples, but people use it all the time. You need to use these plastic head fasteners, and they need to be in the right place. You need to avoid tape, the taped areas and keep it so far away from windows. This is where following instructions is really important. So the other thing which drives me really crazy is that because there's always a rush to get the draw for the siding, people put up the siding before anything else is done. They put up the siding and then they drill the holes for the pipes and the wires.
Right.
And really what you need to do is delay any exterior finishes until every pipe and wire is sealed through the weather barrier. There's these really wonderful flashing templates for like HVAC outlets you can just tape on. Zip tape around, this is a multifamily project, zip tape around the electrical service. And this one is just kind of what you usually see is they just cut the holes. And in some cases, they actually cut the holes after the siding's in. And every time a pipe or a wire isn't weather sealed from the outside, it's a water leak, and water's going to get in the building. You can seal it with foam from the inside against air leakage, but you have to cover both water leakage and air leakage. Both of them are very important.
Yeah.
And that was it. Yeah, that was basically
So,
my three things.
So let me ask you this. A lot of systems now they're promoting sort of like Zip, this all-in-one where you put up your sheathing, the weather barrier is attached, you tape it, and you move on. What's your experience been with those types of systems?
Pretty much every product is fine if it's installed properly.
Okay.
I like Zip sheathing a lot. I like Tyvek a lot. I like other house wrap products a lot. They're all good, and if they're not installed properly, they're all bad. That's the case with pretty much with almost everything in construction. It's rarely the materials that are the issue. It's the design and the installation that are the problem.
So what about those builders who say, well, in order to build in this way, it increases production costs, it increases production times, the houses are going to have to be more expensive. How do you buy that argument?
They probably should be more expensive. I remember from my time as a contractor, it's a very competitive business. There's, people view houses as commodities, and the best example I have is I came up with this analogy a while ago. It said if people bought their cars like they bought houses, you would order it, they would drop the parts in your yard. People would show up speaking different languages, assembling the car in the rain. And when it was done, would you actually get in that car and drive it? And houses and apartment buildings, they're actually they should be pretty carefully engineered machines that should be put together by qualified people that take the time to do it right.
Well, Carl, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. This has been pretty informative.